Please rise for silent invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Ford.
Present.
Councilmember Tremont.
Here.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Here.
Mayor Burnett.
Here. Agenda for the evening. May I have a motion for approval for the agenda for the evening?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed. We have an agenda. Public comments on consent agenda items. Do we have any?
Yes.
Is that,
Robert on the Zoom.
is that Robert? Okay.
Robert Ronhagen. Robert, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I cannot see you, but I can hear you.
That's okay. You're up on the consent agenda items only.
Yes, I had made a phone call to the utility department, and I think they can handle it, so I don't need to make any comment.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Anyone in the audience care to speak to the anything on consent? If there being none, I need a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion to approve items 6 through 10 on consent. Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. Citizen participation, non-agenda items. Robin, do we have any?
Yes. Sorry, I was trying to get a little organized.
Not a problem.
Alright, these are all on the same topic,
Okay.
and then these are separate.
All right. Reggie Hunter.
Good evening, everybody. I am Reggie Hunter. I'm the chair-elect of the Port Orange South Daytona Chamber. I am here tonight just to give a couple of thank yous from the Chamber. Number one, to thank the city for all their help in the administering of the small business reopening grants. That has been obviously something that was very well needed, and you have done a great job on that. Also, the Chamber is very excited to partner with you with your Buy Local campaign. So we've been giving out the lawn signs. We're seeing quite a few of them around the city now, and we're really happy to help you with that campaign in any way we can. And just lastly, just a general thank you for your friendship and partnership throughout the years, and especially now through this very trying time. Thank you.
Thanks, Reggie. And we're back to Robert Reinhagen on Zoom.
Mayor, council members, Robert Reinhagen, 1425 Dexter Drive, Port Orange. With regard to the panhandling discussion last week, I listened with interest to the discussion on panhandling at the last city council meeting because I had sent an email to the city clerk with my concerns regarding the topic. The city clerk had sent back to me a response from the police chief about the purpose of the United Way 211 cards that they were distributing. So I was pleased to hear the police chief reaffirm that they were using the cards as part of their effort to provide information about the various social services that the panhandlers and homeless can access to get their lives back on track. So I have to agree with Councilwoman Ford that we should not be telling citizens that the city cannot do anything. The police department is doing something by enforcing the existing laws. What the city needs to do, in my opinion, is to educate the public that our police are offering the opportunity to access social services. We need to let people know how to support those local social services, and that they do not need to feel guilty if they do not give money to the panhandlers. The panhandlers are here in part because this is where the money is. We do not need to be spending money on lawyers to create new laws that the city will probably end up defending in court when there are so many other things that the city should be spending money on. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Paul Snap, coming from the back row.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Paul Snap, 49 Circle Drive, Seabird Island. I'm the HOA president. And I'm here just basically, the island owners who you met at the March, Linda and Ginger Davis, and all the residents want to thank everybody here on staff and the city manager who met with all the other police departments that were there present. What a great job you guys did. When I saw in the paper, there wasn't one incident that I know of, and the paper didn't say anything about it. I saw Councilman Stillner ride his bike, and you and Mr. Tremont were sweating like it was really warm out there.
Lost a pound or two.
Yes.
Thanks
yep.
for the water.
So yeah, I think we want to thank all of you. You guys did a great job, and also Sheriff Chitwood, who I saw riding around talking to people and having his flyovers and everything. I think looks like everything did a really good job, and we're really happy that there weren't any problems, because our senior community, everybody's a little uptight about it. You know what I mean? So thanks again. You guys did a great job, and I hope everything goes well. And also, I just heard on the news that Mr. Schofield, Frank Schofield, died a year ago today.
Yeah.
So that's too bad, because I used to talk to him underneath the Dub Mountain Bridge all the time. He was a really nice guy. So thanks again. You all did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I don't want to botch the last name. Is it Shireen Zare?
It's Zari.
Zari?
Can I actually defer to one of the other people that are here to speak on the same subject? I'm not one of the family members of the homeowner.
Okay. I tell you what, I will hold yours to the end if you want to speak
Yeah.
after everybody else has spoken. And is it? Hold on a second. Anthony. All of a sudden, I can see these better. Anthony Haluma.
He's just gonna go with Anthony.
Yeah.
It's Haluma.
Okay.
I'd like to speak on behalf of, hey Mayor, hey Councilman. I'd like to appreciate y'all giving us the time to sit here and speak on this issue. And I'm personally a person that is a good friend of Ryan Friend that passed away at this intersection. But at the same intersection, not only as a driver with a perfect driving record, but as a pedestrian and citizen of the city of Port Orange and Volusia County, have been for 3 years. The intersection at hand is Miles Drive and Nova, and it's very unsafe, not only for drivers, but for bicyclists and pedestrians. In the past year and a half, I've almost been hit on 6 different occasions crossing the street there. I'm also a victim of a hit and run incident at the same intersection where somebody's hit my car, totaled it, and drove off. Now, I can understand that we may not be able to put a light there or something, but I think there needs to be more safety for people that want to get out, exercise, for pedestrians that want to be able to cross the street, but also have access into the shopping center and into their homes and into their neighborhoods also. But I think that, there should be more safety at that intersection as far as pedestrian-wise and for the drivers also, because it's not just everybody in the car. Pedestrians need to look out for drivers, as for drivers need to look out for pedestrians, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, it's just a very unsafe and unstable intersection. And I used to live in the house right behind it, and I don't know how many times I've been woken up out of my sleep due to the sound of car wrecks right there, because we lived in Parkwood, right there at Foxborough, right there on the corner, that trailer right there. And my fiance's lived there for 8 years. We just moved over to the Spruce Creek Village 2.5 years ago. But I've woke up numerous times just to wrecks time and time again right there at that intersection. I see people almost get hit there all the time. And, I understand that Foxborough only has one way in onto Nova and one way out onto Taylor. But, instead of just being able to cross straight over, I think that, a logical thing, in my opinion, would be to median the whole thing and make them go down and do U-turns like every other neighborhood would have to. The shopping center already has access to Nova Road, to Spruce Creek, and it still allows people to get into the subdivision that is behind it. And at this point, you know, the only thing I'm in concern about is the safety of drivers and pedestrians both at the same time. We've done lost one dear friend, family member. I've seen numerous other people getting wrecked. It's just been a problem. And I've only been here for 3 years, but it's been a problem for the last 3 years. And I got a perfect driving record. And yet, here I am a victim of hit and run at the same intersection, not even 7 months after my one dearest friend passed away and got killed at this same intersection. And that's all I say, Councilman, Mayor.
Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Anthony. Laura, you want to speak near last? Do we only call on other people and you put it about? No, I've got a handful of people. I'll come back to you. Kathy Nahoon?
Hello, my name is Kathy, and I'm speaking in support of my friend Lori and her family. As you heard from Anthony, the intersection is very dangerous. There's been multiple accidents, and then finally there was a death. And I would hope that the powers that be, the Department of Transportation, would please take notice of this and please do something about this before something like that happens again. The devastation that the death of Ryan Friend has caused my friend and her family, words can't explain. It's just been a horrible, horrible thing. And so, again, I would hope and pray that the Department of Transportation does something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Thompson.
Hello, I'm Patricia Thompson. I'm also here on the behalf of the Friend family. My fiance is Anthony Haluma. On January 9th, he and I were hit and ran. The vehicle that hit us left the scene. We still have not been able to find the man that hit us. I live across the street from some of the family, of the Friend family, and it upsets me every day when I have to talk to them about the situation and nothing is being done about it. I mean, they lost a very good person in their family. He was young. He was 22 years old. He wasn't able to have kids. He's not going to be able to graduate from college. He's not going to be able to do anything because he's gone. And the gentleman that hit him, what happened to him? We don't know because nobody knows the situation at all. The intersection is very bad. I lived in Parkwood for 8.5 years. Every other week, I would get woken up and look behind me, and police, fire trucks, ambulance were picking somebody up off the street, putting them back in an EMT and taking them to the hospital. And I pray that night that they survived it. And then I get into a neighborhood at Spruce Creek Village, and I meet a gentleman, and he loses his life because all he was doing was riding a motorcycle, going to a fitness center to work out for the day. And now he can't even enjoy the rest of his life because he's no longer here. And I just think until this is over, I will fight for justice for him and his family until something gets done about the intersection of Nova and Miles Drive. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lori? Generally speaking, you get 3 minutes for these, but if you need more time, I'm sure my counsel would agree to it, would you?
Thank you.
Sure. You've got what you need.
Thank you. My name is Lori Friend. My son was an amazing, integral young man, somebody that all of y'all would be proud to have as a son. He wasn't a bad kid. He didn't get in trouble. He was planning to be a police officer because he believed in justice. He grew up in the city. He was born in Halifax. He went to Spruce Creek Elementary and went to Spruce Creek High, just as I did. We've been in this community a very long time, and we had faith in this community. That faith has been rocked. Everything I thought the city of Port Orange stood for, I don't believe that anymore. That was a very dangerous intersection before, and now it's a deadly intersection. It's not only dangerous, it's deadly now. That could have been any one of your children minding their own business because he was doing nothing wrong. He was hit by someone who crossed. There's 12 different directions you can travel in that intersection at the same time. I-12. And it's at a slant. So some go oncoming. That's a crazy intersection, people. It should be regulated somehow. There's 2 small stop signs, which most people just blow through anyway. I've sat there since my son died for more hours than I could ever tell you, watching those traffic patterns and seeing what happens there. I sit there. It's been almost 9 months now, and it's like my son did not matter to anybody. And he counted on this city. He loved this city. He didn't get any justice in the police department. The entire investigation was horrible. And I'm a former police officer. I'm not saying anything bad about the police. My family are law-abiding, respecting, loving people. But it was handled horrible, and it was brought to the attention of the chief of police. And you know what he told me? We went to court 2 times. The man who killed my son was issued a ticket for failure to yield. Even though he didn't stop at a stop sign, he went through the median and he struck my son who was minding his own business, and he threw him 200 and some feet, and his motorcycle 100 and some feet. That's not a little bump. My son, his autopsy reports are so devastating. Every bone in his face was broken, and he had on a full face mask. How hard did this man hit him? This is more than just a little thing to my family. My son had 2 amputations. He had such horrible, horrific injuries to his body, and I had to see that. I held his hand in the trauma room when his body was dead. I seen him in the morgue, and I seen what he looked like. I didn't let my children see that. But I see that, and I'm angry as a mother because someone hurt him so bad. This is more to me than just one intersection. I'm a reasonable, educated person, and I know that it is hard to get intersections changed. I know sometimes it just doesn't happen. When we went to court, that man never showed up, not once. Not one time. Did he ever have to face anything and even say, yeah, it happened? He didn't have to admit guilt, but he wasn't even there. He didn't care. At the final hearing, he wasn't there either. Never once has he appeared for anything. The judge dismissed the entire case because the city of Port Orange trained traffic homicide investigators wrote the wrong state statute on the citation. So that man got to go free with nothing, not even a little ticket. My family has been fighting this for almost 9 months. I've gone through hell every second of every minute of every day. And all my family wants, we don't want trouble with this city. We don't want that. We want that citation to be reissued. We want someone to think that he cared, and at the very least, we want that intersection fixed so it doesn't happen to anyone else. It should not have happened. This is my son, Ryan. Each one of you would have loved him. He was amazing, an old soul. One of those good people. This is my son now. This is what I have of him now. This. 6 foot tall, I can't ever hug him or kiss him again. Can't ever see him again. As a mother, it's my responsibility and my duty to fight till I die. To make sure something's right here, because he deserved that. He loved this city, and he loved the police force, and I feel everybody's let him down. We just want somebody that knows how to get it done right to help us. That's it. That's all we want. And if a road study cannot be done, because I know they've denied it many times, maybe there could be a different route. Maybe we could go a pedestrian route. Make it safe for pedestrians, and that might help as far as if there was just a no right-hand turn, or if there was a no left-hand turn sign right there.
Yeah, right turn only.
Right.
Yeah.
My son wouldn't have died that day. It's all a sign. And the thing is, this has happened over and over and over, but there was no deaths until now. And to me, I would think that the most important thing anyone in the city of Port Orange could care about is a death in their city. One of their residents who loved them, who wanted to be like all of you, who helped his grandparents. He lived with his grandparents to help them because they're old. He helped them every day. He would help anybody, and he believed in justice. He didn't believe in revenge. That's not him. He doesn't want trouble. He never would. He was always the peacekeeper, the level-headed guy who forgave, which I can't do at this point, but that would be him. Just, if any one of y'all can help our family, we have tried every avenue. And every time I get shut down, and it's like people are playing word games with me. When I put in a complaint at the police department, they take one word. When I put in a paper that said that the citation was thrown out because of that Florida state statute, are you going to correct it? How'd that happen? What happened? That's my son. I want answers. You know what I was told? I got a letter from Captain Kilpatrick that says her and Chief Grimaldi agree that this did not constitute lack of knowledge on his officer's part. Case closed. How do you say that? The case was never really opened, you know? Anyway, I gave you a little bit. I don't want to get angry up here. I don't want to get upset because I could. I'm trying my best to be respectful. But the anger and the pain and what I see going, my children, my other 2 girls are devastated. I have 7 grandchildren that love their Uncle Ryan. And they ask for him because they don't understand. And I just love him. And if any of y'all could help, even if it's just with the traffic, with the road pattern, with a sign, any of that. And then my family sees where when an officer gets hit out on Tomoka Farms, man, there's all kinds of stuff put up. Like the next day, they had little road stopper signs, they had bright new stop signs, they had everything. My son dies and all I get is it doesn't constitute lack of knowledge, case closed. My son mattered. He mattered to me and he should matter to y'all because you guys are the city of Port Orange. And I don't know if you guys have the power to do what I would like to have done, but whatever power you guys have, whatever connections you guys have, if you could share those with our family to try and push us in the right direction, to get the road changed, to get something done. That's all we need and all we're asking for. That man's never, ever even had to pay a ticket. Nothing. If it was your child and he was killed in such a gruesome manner and you had to see this, you would want justice. You would want justice. And that's what we want, just help. And I appreciate each one of you. I really do. And I hope that maybe you guys can have some ideas because I wasn't put on this earth to do this. To bury my son and then have to fight for 9 months just to get somebody to care. I shouldn't have to do that every day. I send emails and phone calls out every day and I shouldn't have to do this. So I'm here today asking you guys to please just, if you guys have any suggestions, just please let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Sarah? Shireen, you want to try to top that? Or add to that, I should say?
Like to add to, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm Shireen Zari, 823 Softwood, which is in the Miles subdivision. I'm a homeowner there. I found out about this kind of last minute, but I drive by the flowers and the helmet, and I approach that intersection every single day of my life. That intersection is terrifying. I live there, I'm a homeowner, I use it every day, and I say a prayer every single time I come out of my neighborhood because it is so dangerous. And I have 2 13-year-old boys that go to Silver Sands. They'll be on the road driving in the next few years. Thank you so much for sharing. I can't imagine how hard that was. I don't want to be back here in a few years fighting for my boys. So I'm really just here as a homeowner and as a citizen and somebody who hasn't heard the whole story. I just drive by it and I see it every single day. And I can't accept that there's nothing that can possibly be done. I've been doing this for 5 years going up to this intersection. And she's right, the way that people drive there is horrendous. And like I said, it's terrifying. So there has to be a solution, and I have a lot of faith in our city and as you guys as our council to figure out what that solution is. And as a citizen, if there's something that I can do, I just want to do that. So
Appreciate you having your neighbors back.
and thank you so much for listening, and I hope that we figure something. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I do have some information that I'd like to share with them at some point. We've asked them to depart after we're all done, but I want to make sure that...
Actually, Jake, I want to make that easier since they're here. What I was thinking of is that we could take a 10-minute recess and discuss and maybe use that 10 minutes and then get back here, because I can't have a meeting without them, but I want to be able to address some of the things that we've done and give you that opportunity right now. Would you like a 10-minute recess to do that with her?
With her, no, you don't want it on the public record? That's
Oh, go
fine.
ahead. I mean,
Yeah,
put it on the record, but I'm still, after you're done, I'm going to...
Absolutely.
I'm going to
Yes,
call
sir.
a recess.
I understand.
So that we can...
I understand. Yes, sir.
I just wanted you to know where I was thinking.
Yes, sir. So, if you want to do that. Jake Johansson, I'm the city manager. Couple things, and heart-wrenching story. I've heard it a few times from my staff, and it affects us a lot, believe me. Nova Road, as the elected officials know, and I want you all to know, is a state road. So, you know, the Cabbage Patch Corner is a county road. The county reacted to that. It's common that the government closest to the people can respond the quickest. We would have liked to have done something on Nova Road and Miles, but we can't because it's FDOT. We did do a study. We did ask FDOT to do a study, and based on the number of accidents there, we've had 5 reported to the city of Port Orange since September of 19. That doesn't mean there weren't more, but there were 5 reported. So FDOT's taken that information. As with any government, there's a public hearing section. That public hearing has to be done in the public. We're just now letting you all in here today. COVID kind of threw it even farther. So FDOT is going to have the public hearing, which we will ensure. You said, what can you all do? We'll ensure that you know about that public hearing so you can go and tell that story again. And to the FDOT folks, we've also put in a project in the TPO to get it funded that way for some road improvements that we can make over there through the TPO through FDOT. So I got Tim Berman, the police already sent in their information to FDOT. So something's going to be done. It's not going to be done today, and we don't know when it's going to be done. And COVID has really messed up the federal dollars and the state dollars. So I can't promise you anything other than, from my perspective and Chief Grimaldi's perspective, we will stay on FDOT and community development. We will stay on FDOT and make sure that we put that on our project list. We have a bunch of projects that we keep on prodding them about and prodding them about and prodding them about. So hopefully we'll get something done. In the meantime, I'm very glad that you guys are bringing that awareness up to us. Our police know that that's a problem intersection. I think when Lori was talking, I looked at it to refresh my memory, and it is an ugly place to be, but we just can't act and fix it now. So some of the things some of the tools that we have that you may be able to use, I hope you have Representative Leak and Senator Wright's email addresses and phone numbers, but they are our state representatives. It's a state road. It would not hurt to contact them and share with them, just to put maybe a little bit more pressure on the Department of Transportation to change that. And again, that's what you did today with us, with the folks that have the purse strings that pay for that. So we'll keep it on our scan. It's been on my scan since before that because of the accidents, but there's been a string of them lately, as you all know, and finally got FDOT's attention. As for the other part of it with the judge and whatnot, that's an investigation that is still underway. So I'm not gonna really comment on that. All right.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I understand Nova's that, first off, thank you for coming and sharing. My condolences on the loss of your loved one. Everybody up here spoke. I mean, that was just a great job, so I commend you on that. Nova being a state road, Miles being ours, can we take some sort of action on a right turn only, perhaps? Or is that just not possible without their cooperation?
I don't believe we can without their cooperation. Yeah, we can't mess with that. As I understand it, we can't mess with that intersection at all.
Okay, even though Miles is ours and Nova's
we
is
can
theirs.
shut it down. That's about all. We can block it, and we're not doing that, obviously.
Yeah.
So.
I just, I wish there was something we could do from our end.
I'll tell you what. I'll talk to Tim Berman and we'll chat with our traffic engineers, either TEDS or LTG, and see if there's something we can do. But may not be much.
Yeah, I know in the past
take a
they've
look.
done some light studies, even before this
We can't do a
incident.
light study.
No, I know,
Yeah.
and the light has been denied, or the study, they just said, no, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
So I understand that part, but perhaps, we can get some cooperation on the right
Lights
turn
and
only
signs
or
and
something.
direction of movement, I think, are the three things that we can't mess with.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions of the city manager before I take a recess?
I don't have any questions for Jake.
Go ahead.
So, Lori, before you go, I want to give you my email address. So there is a new FDOT District 5 secretary, and if you'll email me, I'll get that information. So, a couple of things that I think you guys can be very effective at doing. A lot of what Jake was talking about for sure, but one of the issues that all elected bodies have is funding to take care of a lot of things. We recently had a huge effort to try to get a half-cent sales tax to address a huge amount of highway, roadway issues to improve public safety. And it just didn't go anywhere. It failed miserably. And so that really hurts all municipalities and counties and even the state to be able to get a lot of these projects done. Jake's right. Nova Road is actually, the designation is State Road 5. It belongs to the state of Florida. It falls under the control of FDOT. We don't have control to do anything there. In fact, the entire intersection does, because their state right-of-way extends onto Miles, actually. So, but that doesn't mean stuff can't get done, like Jake's talking about, and he's absolutely right. I promise you nothing will happen as fast as any of us in this room would like for it to happen, but it can happen. But it takes time. That type of stuff I come from a background in traffic, so I used to look at those reports. I know how the state works. They've got a matrix, and to their credit, the last thing they want to do is make a change because to all of us it looks good and sounds good, and somebody gets killed because of the change, right? They have to kind of guard against, let's make sure we don't create another problem that we can't foresee. So there's a lot of studies that go into that, and a lot of engineering and all that kind of stuff. But you're right, it's an intersection. Way back in my days in law enforcement, I've worked crashes there. Fortunately, no fatalities, but crashes there, and lots of other places around the city. And a lot of times it just comes back to being able to put all of that stuff in a row, meet the matrix that the state is looking for, have the funding, and then move that forward. So one of the things I would ask for you guys, and there will be an opportunity in the years to come, is when you see the news reports and you see cities and counties and state elected officials talking about an idea where they're going to maybe have to have a sales tax increase to fund these things. We need people like yourselves to support them. We need people to be vocal and help get that stuff done, because that is how things like this are going to be done. But I'm sure our staff will, like Jake was talking about, they will do everything in their possible, their processes that they have to work with their state partners to make sure that the studies are done and they're looking at these locations and what can be done, push to get that done, and we'll certainly do our part on that. So, but anyway, before you leave, just grab this. and I will forward some information to you, because I do sit on another board where a lot of those FDOT state officials are there, and I'll forward some information to you, so at least you can be emailing them as well. And then the staff will keep you up to
Thank
speed.
you. I sent a lot of emails.
Good. You guys are great at speaking too, so.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
yeah.
We are in recess for 10 minutes. Council comments? Oh. Start with Mr. Chase this time.
Sure. I imagine, there might be a couple references to this past week, and I'll go ahead and make my comments known. Won't go into a long dissertation about everything, but I do want to offer my thanks to our city manager, our police chief, fire chief, Parks and Rec, Public Works. I believe Ponce Inlet was helpful, Daytona Beach Shores, the Sheriff Department, and all the residents of Port Orange, and the entire, all the folks that came across the county to participate in the demonstration that was planned not by the city of Port Orange, but was at least a social media planned event for justice for George Floyd. We all know what's going on around the country today. It was the way it should be done, especially given, and it was nice to see that, especially given what we've been seeing on the television the last 72 hours or so. What happened Sunday was the way our founders believed it to be done. It was the way the Constitution established it to be done. I believe we were expecting about 75 to 100 until the News Journal promoted it. I certainly expressed my disappointment to the News Journal. And I did have a conversation with Pat Rice. We just had a fundamental disagreement as to what was newsworthy. I didn't think a promotion of an event was newsworthy. You want to report it, that's one thing, but creating it is another. That is just my disagreements there. And I stand by my original statement for that. Final comment I'll say in regard to that. My wife made a social media post not too long ago about it, and it was a moment that I had forgotten about, but it certainly hit me when I checked it out. When we were adopting our son, I'll read a portion of what she said. She said, "When I was going through the process of finalizing Jacob's adoption, a caseworker was sent to my house by DCF. It was an African-American lady who came to the door, and within the first few minutes of us speaking, she asked me if I really thought I was prepared to raise an African-American child." My wife said I looked at her dumbfounded as to why she would insult my ability to raise them any differently than I had my other children. The fact is, when you think about that later on in life, years later, she wasn't questioning her ability to raise a child. What she was questioning, was asking, is if she knew exactly what she was getting into with raising a black child. You don't really consider the challenges that others face when you know you'll never have to face them yourself until you're in that position to ask those questions. Now we're dealing with the effects of that type of thinking as a country, and I don't want to get into a philosophical speech here at all, other than to say that I do pray for our country, pray for the soul of our country tonight, and going forward for more demonstrations the way we had in the city of Port Orange. I was very proud to see the display that we saw. It was peaceful, and the message that we've been trying to get across was not lost that day, as it has been in so many other times. So, thanks again, Jake, for reacting so quickly and keeping us all in the loop as to what was going on and being so well prepared. Well done.
Drew?
I can't even really follow that other than to say thank you to our staff from the top down, from Jake and the officers and whoever was involved in that. It was a situation that occurred, and we reacted to it and handled it properly, and the people who assembled and came, did not behave badly, and everything worked out. I think there were some minor traffic inconveniences or whatever, but I mean that's minor, and so overall, the event turned out in in a good way. And, you know, I just thank the staff and for everything that they did to prepare for it. You know, we really didn't know what we were preparing for, how many people to expect or whatever, and it worked out well, so thank you.
Marilyn?
I would echo what everybody said. I mean, certainly watching the news the last couple of days, it's heartbreaking to see what is happening in other locations around the nation as demonstrations start, and then as some rogue people come in and turn them into something else. So Port Orange is even more heartwarming that what happened Sunday was really about what is the best of being respectful of our First Amendment freedoms. And I must compliment Jake, the Chief of Police, Grimaldi, for the plan that he had, our first responders, EMT, Chief Fuston, Parks and Rec. They really prepared for the worst, and the best showed up in terms of the people that were involved. And so for all of the people that came to the demonstration, I think it really emphasized the value of the message you were trying to give. Having said that, I have more mundane comments I'd like to ask about city business. I have spoken with the city attorney, and I mentioned at council maybe a couple months ago when we were meeting, I know the community development is looking at our sign ordinance. And so at that time, I had suggested that one of the things I would appreciate looking at, council reconsider, is whether we could have some of the flag signs, permit those under the revised ordinance. I have been approached by 2 different businesses within my district. They have very little frontage, and at least one of the places used to have a flag sign they would put out and take in every day, and then things changed and that didn't become permissible. So I hope council would want to look at that, and one of the ways you might think about really, are they really that distracting? I've noticed a few signs pop up as we've talked about businesses trying to draw attention to what's open. I haven't found them particularly disturbing. Some of the other, signs that are cattywampus that have, were placed to say, we do takeout, and then haven't been touched since then, and look a little bit disheveled. That's much more concerning to me. But I would say the locations where I've seen a flag sign, I haven't seen them out 24 hours. It appears to me they're more the takeout, take-in kind, probably because the businesses understand there's a cost. So I would ask the rest of you on the dais to think about that. And then the second thing is, and this is a question for Jake and staff, in last week's report, every couple weeks or week, you do a report of all the sidewalks that are being worked on by Public Works. And what caught my eye is that there were quite a few in Water's Edge, which is a relatively new development, and at the other end was Dunlawton Hills and Riverwood. Well, those make sense. They're, 30 years plus. But Water's Edge is so new, I guess, and I don't need an answer today if you don't have them, but I was very curious as to why a newer development is having more problems with their sidewalks.
We don't know why they're having problems. It could be somebody, doing something stupid to them. But the new sidewalk list is based on need and IMS data. So.
And IMS stands for?
I don't know, but it's the people that did the road and sidewalk condition assessment 2 years ago.
Oh, the guy on the Segway?
That's the guy.
Yeah.
So we did the rack and stack, and instead of going old to new. We went worst to best. So
Okay.
there are a few crumbling curbs and whatnot. Excuse me, in Water's Edge that are getting replaced, but it's not, as you would imagine, it's not a long stretch of sidewalk. It's patchwork here, patchwork there.
Okay.
That's under disrepair. I think the one on, as a matter of fact, I haven't looked, Councilmember Ford, but I think the one that we're working on Water's Edge right now is Tributary and Covendale, or Councilman Stiltner. I think there's some curbing.
There's
that-
one
that-
curbing and then 2 were listed for sidewalks.
Yeah, so, and I think those are like 1 or 2 slab patches
Okay.
that, to tell you the truth, that it might have been us. We might have pulled a truck up, or some maintenance was done by somebody and they crushed it and now we have to replace it. So, but as a matter of habit, we don't, we're gonna go in order of need, how bad they are. So, I would venture to say that we're gonna be spending a lot of time in your section of town because it's the older section of town.
Yeah,
by
those
and
make
large.
perfect sense. It's
By
just
and
the
large.
newer ones didn't.
Absolutely.
Because that's a very nice development. When I've driven in there, seems like things are tip-top, so I was sort of surprised to see the sidewalks. Okay.
Some of the
you
people that
answered
live
it.
there are shaky, but
Okay, thank you.
Got a guy there with a
That's
Porsche.
it, Mayor.
Well, we know we got that April-May list is actually rolling into June anyways.
Yeah.
Nature of the beast right now. Scott?
I believe IMS stands for Infrastructure Management System, but we'll go with that if you guys are all right with that.
that sounds great.
Sounds good. We'll go with
Okay.
that. Also, Maryland, Water's Edge is 25 years old now. So
It is?
yeah, I live in the last house of Phase 7, and I've been there 17 years. The front of the subdivision, those first sections are 25 years old. So I don't know what newer is. It does look pretty good, but we are starting to see
Your
some.
phase was 7?
Yeah, we are starting to see
Wow.
some curving and
Wow.
some stuff in the front, especially with the oak trees of pushing up the sidewalks and things like that. Anyhow,
2020, yeah.
They got private streets?
So the other developments must
some
be
of them
40,
coming up.
because Riverwood was, okay.
anyhow, I just wanted I wanted to echo Maryland's echo, if there's such a thing, on the
Echo the echo?
on the event from the weekend. Whenever city staff and elected officials, department heads, and everybody, we don't do well when we get caught by surprise. We like planning. We have processes in place because it helps to protect the public safety, and things just go so much better. And we have an incredible, talented city of folks who, when given an opportunity, can really plan some great stuff, and things go really extraordinarily well. This was one of those things that came up very, very unexpected on a weekend, no doubt. So I definitely compliment the staff, the entire staff, those folks who would normally be coming in spontaneous on a weekend unless we got one of those you-know-whats approaching the state, to get on this and do it extremely quickly as best as possible. And Maryland's right. Hope and pray for the best, expect and prepare for the worst. So you got to put a lot into that. Incredible weather day, so I think that was good. The venue area, surprisingly, not so bad for something like that. Probably could have made it a lot better had we had time to prepare. And so I guess my message would be is that I get it. Things like this happen. Emotions take over. Stuff happens spontaneous. Somebody doesn't necessarily always think that through. But kudos to the staff for doing what they were able to do in a very, very short period of time. And Jake, and to Chase's point, I compliment and thank very much all of the other agency resources from the region that jumped on board, because there's no way that we can do that short by ourselves and be able to maintain that level of public safety. A couple of scary medical things because it was hot. And I will tell you, there's a perfect example of why planning would have, had we had more time to plan, when somebody goes down in a medical episode, we'd have probably had resources a little bit closer, a little bit quicker to respond. And we had a couple of incidents that were a little bit nervous. I was nervous watching them because it was taking a little bit of time to get medical folks there, and South Daytona had to send a med unit. We watched evac pass a medical episode to go to another one on the other side of the river. So things like that are, can pop up when those events, and you're right, you think he's going to have 75 to 100, and then I don't know what the count was, but it seemed like it was a lot show up. So
and we had 3 ambulances within 4 miles,
Yeah.
3 miles.
I think we had 4 medical episodes in a very
four
almost all
four all at the same time.
Yeah, so tough thing, but great. I just can't say how proud I was of not only all the folks who participated, but the city staff and everybody else. And Chase is right. That's exactly how things like that are supposed to work. So great job on that. And had she not left, I wanted to just compliment Reggie on her new position. You know, one thing about Reggie, man, she's got high energy. She's a good fit for that role. So I look forward to seeing her come up here. One last comment on Maryland's sign things. You're right. We do need to revisit that. That's going to be something. So we were in Orlando a couple of weeks ago. The flag signs, I saw a new twist to that, and this is why I'm bringing up the point. Driving down the road, it looked like the strobe lights were going off on the side of the road. It was a flag sign where they almost had like a mirror-type finish in squares on the flag. So as it's waving and catching sunlight, I mean, you talk about distracting. It got your attention, but I was like, man, there's somebody who stepped it up. You know, they came up with another idea. You know, I've seen the glow-in-the-dark ones and all that kind of stuff. So that'll probably always be something we'll have to revisit from time to time. But yeah,
Technology changes.
Yeah, it does. That's all I got.
By the way, that's going to Planning Commission in July. You guys will see it in August, since Councilmember Ford brought it up. Tim's re-looking at the ordinance.
Jake, I spoke to you earlier today, and I know that the recap was going to be a topic that you would probably hit under city manager comments, but I had a feeling I wanted to be able to give you a chance to give us any kind of after-action information about the protest now while we're all talking about it. And if you've got anything you want to share after action, certainly thanking our neighbors is where we start.
So, absolutely, VCSO, EVAC, Daytona Beach Shores, Ponce Inlet, South Daytona, the Beach Patrol, Volusia County Dispatch Communications, Parks and Rec, Public Works, Police Department, Fire Department, all within a matter of somebody sent me, I think it was Cindy or Robin, sent me the flyer and said, and an hour later, Susan and Lynn were in contact with me, giving Chief Grimaldi time to get his team together to come up with a plan, and then report back to Lynn and Susan and whoever, all the department heads were available on what he needed. And we talk about how we like to plan things, but when you like to plan things, then you talk about cost. When you talk about cost, you talk about risk, and when you talk about risk, then you're starting to do trade-offs, and do we want to call it? So with this, it was like, we don't have time, overtime authorized, get as many people as you can. And I thought we were going to do it with maybe us and a little bit of sheriff, a la Daytona, but it turned out that everybody turned to, because we had enough time to ask around. So the other sister cities, especially the beachside cities, who we could have leaked out into, right? Really came to the rescue, or came to us as partners. The other thing that we benefited from is we saw Daytona the week prior, right? And one of the things that happened was it may have been a peaceful or not peaceful protest on the beach, but then they leaked onto the road, then they leaked out beyond that. So we knew that might happen in Port Orange, and by and large, everybody peacefully protested. It was on a Sunday. It was during the day. We had a lot of things working for us. So it worked out, and everybody did. I mean, I was watching right after the event. I was following a church member who was Facebook Living it, and I saw people leaving Halifax and leaving while people were still walking. So they went over, they went back, they got in their cars and went home. They had stuff to do. So I would say there was a lot of planning. I know Chief and his team worked through the night, and I saw some pretty good pictures of some folks prep in the morning. I went down there the morning of, but stayed away during the event. By and large, I think the team did a phenomenal job. There was a little bit of luck in there, but Marilyn brings up a good point. We are Port Orange, and Port Orange is just a little bit different sometimes. And I am most proud of the protesters and the citizens of Port Orange who not only protested, but for the most part, let the protesters protest, which is sometimes a problem too. So I couldn't be more happy and more pleased and more humbled and more proud of Port Orange and how they did that. So I'll tell you what, the other thing I'm very happy with is the citizen who arranged it worked with the police department. He wanted it to go one way. Chief Grimaldi called him, or it might have been Bill Proctor that called him, and we got him to switch some things up. It worked out better for him. It worked out better for us, and it made the event extremely successful. If I had to do it again, I think the only better place to do it would be at City Center, because once you come off of Dunlop or Herbert, it's all park, and it all works. And we have a ring you could have gone around, but if you can't do it there, the bridge is the other option. We did have to close the bridge for 15 minutes when they started leaking out, but they came across. We got everybody back on the sidewalk, and they opened it back up. So I think given the situation, I think it was.
That was about keeping the crowd safe.
So yeah, so Chief and I said, we hand wrung on Saturday night, like, this is a no-win. There's no way something's gonna happen bad either on our side or their side. We hope it doesn't, and we tried to prep he tried to prep every option, every contingency, and I think they nailed it, except for 3 ambulances and 4 events, but
Hot day.
But yeah, hot day. So yeah, it's a successful event, and we're pretty happy with the way it turned out.
Jake, one thing I've got to
Yes, sir.
add is that when you have a protest of that size and that nature, and part of what they were talking about was a tremendous overreaction by a police officer that cost somebody his life. Whether that is race or not, that is at the heart of what they're talking about. And when they're talking about a police officer's overreaction that cost somebody their lives, and to the point where we have to protest it, and people feel they've got enough is enough and have to show up en masse like they did, and say enough is enough. How many more of these do we have to go through? Our police department took the bull by the horns and said, okay, our job is to make sure that these people are kept safe, but at the same time we need to allow them the distance and the ability to feel like they can exercise their First Amendment rights. And I think our police department did a wonderful job of that, and to a man on scene, to giving them the space to do what they needed, to intervening when they needed to make sure that people needed a direction to get across the street, things like that. But it was simple things, and then of course being on the ground and being helpful when there were a couple of heat stroke victims until EMS arrived. I just thought that was fabulous, and I'm grateful not only for that, but I'm grateful for the collaboration of our neighbors who answered our call for help, and we appreciate that. And I got only one thing I get to say to that is, we'll be there for them.
Absolutely.
We'll be there for them. One more thing I wanted of a lighter note to add. Next Wednesday, not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, is the Major League Baseball Amateur Draft. And Zach Veen of Spruce Creek High School is projected to go in the top 5, not 5 rounds. He's going to be one of the first 5 picks, somewhere in that top 10 at worst. We're going to see a graduate of Spruce Creek High School be a top 10 pick in the Major League Baseball draft. And what a great story. I've known him and his father since they were small. I met them, my kid playing baseball with them when they were small, and of course seeing them all shoot up. I just wanted to say, hey, great things are happening here in Port Orange other than protests and other than COVID-19. So Thursday morning, it might take an extra day, but Friday morning when you pick up the newspaper and see where Zach Veen went in the draft, he's carrying the dreams and hopes into Major League Baseball from an entire community, and he's up to the task. So Zach and especially your dad, Rick, we're thinking of you, and we're going to be with you on this journey. Go get him.
Is he a pitcher, Tom?
No.
Oh, position player.
Mm-hmm.
And
He'll first base, outfield.
and he's not having to go to college. He's going directly
Oh,
to
he's got a free ride at the University of Florida, but man, if you're a top 5 pick in the Major League Baseball draft, that's
Yeah.
some serious bucks.
Yeah.
So I think the University of Florida is probably off the table.
Going to lose one. Yeah.
Yep, no
Okay.
doubt about it.
Well, good for him.
Absolutely. Special awards reports, recognition proclamations. I need to put my glasses back on.
Yeah.
Victoria Fallberg could not be with us. We're rescheduling her to this meeting on the 16th. So that brings us the annual report for Art House, and I do not see Cameron. So we will be rescheduling Cameron
Someone's over
Vincent from Art House as well. So that opens up the public hearing portion of the meeting. That is first reading of ordinance 2020-7. Come on, Mr. Arrow. There we go. Ordinance number 2020-7 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending the Land Development Code Chapters 2, 12, and 17, relating to definitions and interpretations, roads and vehicular use areas, and zoning district regulations, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2020-7, amending chapters 2, 12, and 17 of the Land Development Code.
Second. We have a motion and a proper second.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the second.
Chase.
Thank you.
Give credit to.
I'd like to hold off till Penny gets here.
So funny you should mention that. I'm looking at Rob, I'm like, where's Penny?
Penny's standing out there waiting on
We
us.
blew through items 12 and 13 and got
You
through
guys-
item 14.
We locked her out.
Got me a little.
Motion proper second, items open on the floor.
Gotta catch my breath.
Go. Penny, the floor is yours.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Something's blocking this and I can't get it to go away. I'm not sure how. Can they see my full slide or do they see this block thing? Oh, oh, let me see if that made it go away. Oh, that made it go away. Beautiful. IT, subspecialty. Penelope Cruz, planning. So before you tonight is an item from Cameron General Contractors together with Resort Lifestyle Communities. They have applied to amend our land development code regarding the PCA Workplace District zoning category, which is the lighter blue shade area there. It is along Williamson Boulevard between Summer Trees Road and I-95. The applicant's amendment includes 3 items. The first is to create a definition for a senior independent living community use. The next is to add a parking requirement for said use. And then the third is to add this proposed use as a permitted use in the planned community agriculture workplace district zoning district with a land area limitation and specific dimensional requirements. If this code amendment is approved, they intend to apply for a site plan for a proposed 130-unit all-inclusive senior independent living community in a single 3-story building, approximately 180 square feet, on a 12.4 acre site, which you see outlined in red. So although this is a code amendment, we wanted to take a look at how this would impact traffic in the area if this was approved and the actual proposed development were to be constructed on that 12-acre site. So we did that comparative analysis based on what's allowed right now on the property. The property currently allows primarily commercial, heavy, more intense commercial uses. There was actually a proposal to develop the site with some pretty intense commercial uses at one point prior to the recession. So looking at that, basically could result in about 80% reduction in traffic, peak hour and daily trips. Obviously, if this were to be approved and they submit a site plan, they would then do the full official transportation impact analysis, and we look at that a little bit more detail as well. evaluating access, road improvements, fair share, things like that at that time. But just to kind of give you a preview that this use is a lot less intense when it comes to traffic than what is currently allowed on the property. Just wanted to also let the council know that the applicant did hold a voluntary neighborhood meeting on December 19th, 2019. This was supposed to be before you a lot earlier than now, but obviously from the pandemic got postponed because they wanted to come meet you and introduce themselves to you personally. That was a very positive meeting. I did happen to attend it as well. And primarily the residents that were there were mostly from Royal Palm. They invited all the adjacent neighborhoods, but there was a really good turnout. And the residents were really in favor of this use compared to what's there now, particularly because of the reduced traffic and the buffers that are proposed. And they had a representative that came to Planning Commission. He also spoke on behalf of the community and said that they aren't opposed to this at all. Their main thing is just to make sure that, as required by code, when this is developed, that Williamson sidewalk is continued, and that is part of the code requirement for them to do that. So with that, the applicant is here and would like to make a presentation as well, unless you have any questions for me at this time.
Any questions to staff before we hear the presentation from the developer?
No, I think my question is for.
Okay.
Okay.
Get out of your way then.
Because they are the one that did the study that you talk about in the staff report. Correct, Penny? So my
Yes,
questions would
yes.
be to them
Yes.
about the parking? Okay.
Oh, I got rid of, oh, there was a black on the side too. I didn't see that. Oh, this is a PDF. I forgot. I'm not sure how to do this. I guess I'm not IT, maybe.
Forget on this full screen mode?
Yeah. There you go. So you can either click forward or arrow forward on that.
Good evening, my name is Charles Baverman, here on behalf of Cameron General Contractors and Resort Lifestyle Communities. My colleague Bob Lewis is here as well, Director of Development for Cameron General Contractors. And, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, again, Bob Lewis, Director of Development for Cameron General Contractors, 7101 South 82nd Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. We're here tonight for a text amendment, but we're going to give you a little detail of what we are proposing. Cameron General Contractors and Resort Lifestyle Communities are sister companies. We manage, own, operate senior independent living communities around the United States. We currently have 34, this is a lot outdated, we've got a new one. We have 34 in operation, a little over 600 employees. Company started back in '89. Charlie and I and his team are working on roughly another, combining those two numbers, roughly another 26 communities around the United States in this type of development. Resort Lifestyle Communities is the management arm of Cameron General Contractors. Again, we will own and operate this community. This is a highly amenitized independent living community, 130 units, 128 rentable. Two of the units, one is used for the live-in managers, the other is a guest suite. The building will be staffed 24/7 by somebody from Resort Lifestyle Communities. We have a medical alert system, concierge service, free scheduled transportation, Resort Lifestyle dining as part of our package. It's a monthly rent, and 3 meals a day are included in that. Valet parking, they can pull up to the front door and we'll park their car. Weekly housekeeping is included in that, full-time maintenance. And then as we, in the staff report, it talks about home health care. If in the event somebody would need further assistance, they can hire an assistant or a home health care provider to come into the building. They're not allowed to stay in the room with them, but they can come in daily to help them with some of those things. Our apartments themselves have modern kitchens, closets, washer, dryer hookups, individual climate control. Everybody has their own air conditioner and heater. They can control that. We are a pet-friendly building. Utilities are paid for except for phone. Cable is included. We'll have some patios and balconies. The community itself, the commons area for the residents, we have 150-seat state-of-the-art theater in the building. We'll have a space to rent out to a local bank for banking services. We'll also have a space to rent out for pharmacy and gift shop, salon and barber. Those will be for the residents' use only. There won't be any outdoor signage for those. Those are strictly third-party vendors in the building for our residents. There's a library, a billiards room, communications center. We'll have garages, other storage options in the buildings. 2 elevators in the buildings for the residents. And then we have, from a staffing standpoint, we'll have approximately 27 to 32 full-time equivalent jobs. We'll have, again, the live-in managers. Typically it's a couple in our current scenario. Then we'll have a full-time lifestyle director that'll be in charge of daily and social activities, shopping and outings. We have a lounge in the building. We have a resident travel program. We have a fitness center in the building. We also have fitness classes. Those are included in a whirlpool and spa. This is currently the existing conditions of the site. It is 12.41 acres on the corner of Williamson and Town West Boulevard. You can again see the boundaries. I would just like to comment on the neighborhood meeting that Charlie and I held and attended back in December. It was very well received. The crowd was, I think, pleased with our presentation. They had some great comments, a couple of which were concerning the buffers, which we have some on-site buffers that, oops, go back one more to that. You can kind of see the buffer areas on around the fringes, but also the areas outside the lot. We don't have any ownership of that, so those existing tree areas to the buffer, the existing residential obviously would stay. And then the Royal Palms community, which is, that's fine, you can go back to that one. This kind of shows some of the elevations, if you will. If you're looking out from outside the site back into the site from the residential, you can see we've got an area that's a little over I think that's 300 and plus feet into the building with existing trees that will remain off-site. Again, we don't have ownership of those and have no ability or would have no interest in doing anything with those. So that's looking from the, basically from the, I'm going to call that south into the site. And looking again from the clubhouse of the Royal Palms, again, their concern was what they were going to see. Again, we've got well over 450 feet of open space between us and our building, if you will. That's just to the property line. Then we got another 163 from our property line to the building. And again, we're maintaining at least a 50-foot, I think it's 70, might be 50-foot buffer as it's labeled on this plan. And then lastly, we had a cross section looking from the neighborhood across the street. And again, we're well over 690 feet into the site from that viewpoint. The neighborhood concerns that we discussed, obviously traffic is one of them, and this talks a little bit about the trip generation. When you look at senior independent living, it's one of the lowest traffic generators that's out there. Probably the only thing less is self-storage. And so this kind of compares that to what other multifamily would look like. And staff had their analysis of that traffic, and also this is just showing some of the architectural features of our building. Again, we are the builder, owner, operator of the community, and so we use some substantial building materials because again, we're going to be the ones maintaining it. So we do a lot of brick, stone. We use hardy plank siding, architectural shingles, things of that nature, aluminum for soffits. We don't use any vinyl siding, anything like that. On our decks and patios, it'll be a manufactured flooring on the decks with aluminum railing, things of that nature. Here's just some additional photos of some architectural features. The first one up in the left-hand corner is looking at the dining hall from the back of the patio. The second one in the middle on the top is looking at the porte-cochere at the front of the building. That's a typical sign that we do. Obviously, this one is not named Town Center. Again, looking at the porte-cochere on the bottom left, and then looking at some of the patios in the middle one on the bottom and on the bottom to the right. With that, I'll turn it over to Tara.
We're available for any questions any you may have.
Marilyn, I know you got some, so you might
Yeah,
as well
the
start.
question I had, I was surprised because you talk about the study you have done and spaces for cars. You have one per unit. And I'm trying to understand that because if the minimum age of somebody to live in your section is 55, they've still got 7 years worth of working. Is the reason that you said, because you even say that your study is really like less than one car for most of your residents, is that because you really don't have many in that working age, you've got more retirees?
Yeah,
So it's weighted that way?
It
The
is.
reality, well, I guess, having said that, how confident are you that the same distribution by age in Port Orange will match your other developments?
So we've done so I'll address that in a couple ways. We've done a demographic study of Port Orange area to look at the availability of seniors to move into our community. And we have determined that there is a shortage of senior housing, especially independent living, and that we will not have an issue with filling the building up. As far as the traffic goes, so we did 2 studies of 2 communities that were fully occupied, and a fully occupied community for Cameron General Contractors is all of the units rented and are approximately 155 to 165 residents. And our average age at move-in is 81 years old.
Oh,
Senior
okay.
independent living as it exists is really kind of when people are ready to be done with home ownership is where they move to.
Okay.
We don't have people in our community that are still working and driving. 50% of our residents, when they move in, don't have a car or don't drive anymore. They've lost a spouse, they've lost the ability to drive, they're looking for a community type setting. So we did 2 studies on 2 fully occupied communities. One was in North Carolina and one was in Tennessee, and determined that our parking ratios is less than 1 per unit. And if you look at the engineering traffic manual, it would emulate that also, that traffic counts are low in senior independent living as far as parking requirements. We include in that our garages, so I don't remember the exact number that we had on this particular, probably on here somewhere, building.
Well, no, I'm okay with that. But let me just ask one more follow-up. I accept what you say about the data. Now I would ask, to what extent have you taken a macro view of how culture, society's culture, has changed over time? Because one of the things we've heard from developers is that there's been, on the younger side, people don't want to own homes or condos. They're more likely to rent. And so I'm wondering if in fact there is this societal shift, your assumption that your average age of 81 is going to hold true 10 years from now, and you're not going to have that many in the workforce. Is it true? I mean, what do you know about macro literature, futuristics? Have you looked at it that from some perspective? Because the decision we make today, I mean, I think you obviously hope, and we would too, whatever is built, it's going to last, you know, many, many years. And so you've got to take into account if something going to change.
Yeah, as far as the parking and being able to predict that out into the future, I think when we look at our buildings, we've been in operation for 20 years now. We have not seen that metrics change in 20 years.
Okay.
So looking at it 10 years down the road, or maybe even 20 years down the road, we're not anticipating that. When you look at our package as a whole and what we are charging for rent and the amenities we are providing, it's not a model for people who are younger aged, whether they're 55 or even 45, because technically 80% of the building has to be 55 plus. But we don't have any operating today that has anybody under 55. Fact is, again, our average age of move-in is 81 years old. So that model has held true for 20 plus years. We're not seeing that. We're not seeing that change in our literature as we look at our parking requirements.
Okay, thank you.
No questions. Drew?
I don't have anything for him. Scott?
No, I think it's an area where something like this fits really well. I think you guys are right. A think the data supports that folks are living a lot longer, but yet they're living in a period of time where they need to be in an area that's comfortable and has the amenities right there and the services that they're gonna need and be able to enjoy those quality years as well. So, and I know we've heard this before too, and you guys didn't mention it, but I like the fact that for folks like myself that are gonna have aging family in the area, that there'll be places for them to go that I feel good about without them having to leave the community. And so hopefully when, I got a few more years to go before I'll qualify, but hopefully my kids won't ship me off to another one.
You and Julie are never moving
You know
there.
what I mean?
That's not where they're shipping you.
I'm kind of looking at this and I'm like,
You're not going there.
my kids are gonna need a finance plan to be able to put me in there, so I don't know, they're working on that, but no, thank you, thanks for the presentation. I really don't have any issue with the project. I think it's a good layout and a good area for it.
I think for me, I'm speaking generally, not necessarily for this project. There are so many times we have to make, sometimes the decision is between what's maybe not so desirable and something that's even less desirable. So we approve something that's not so desirable because you kind of have to, and in the process you approve something that's even less desirable. And a lot of times citizens don't understand that because they just see, well, why did you approve that? Why did you approve that? Why did you approve that? Every time we've had one of these come along in the last 5-6 years, I'm like, it looks like a wonderful project. How are they going to fill it? And they fill fast. They fill very fast. And it amazes me. And now I'm reading trends in housing where we are having to prepare for and you know, let's face it, we live in Florida, we have sunshine, this is where people come to retire. We're probably going to be even more impacted than the nation and than anywhere else in the need for senior housing. And we think that we're catching up now. 20 years from now, we may be behind again by quite a bit as people live longer and as people, the trend to move to Florida to retire in the first place. And once you're here, you tend to not leave until you check out permanently. So certainly like the idea of having the right kind of senior living right here in our community, because like Scott nailed it, is like, I don't want my parents to live in Orlando in a senior living facility and me have to go. No, we want them right here with us. And I think that's one of the hardest things about COVID-19 is there are a lot of these facilities right now and we can't go visit our loved ones. And it's the right thing to do to preserve their health right now, but if you're able to put the right facility in our towns with the right kind of living, we want them close. We want our loved ones close. And this is another tool and another way of being able to do that, particularly considering some of the industrial type zoning that might possibly have been there in the first place. I know that the residents in that area are very sensitive to that, so we appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Mayor, one of the additional things that I want to point out, I always do, that this defers some traffic onto the Dunlawton interchange, right? Something that's one of my goals is to try to keep traffic off that interchange, and by decreasing the traffic count, you've pretty much decreased the amount of traffic coming on and off I-95 onto Dunlawton and Williamson, so that helps out as well.
Very good. Would anyone here care to speak to the item? There being none, back to us. Final comments or questions, council? Anyone? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
That closes the public hearing portion of the meeting, brings us to the regular agenda portion of the meeting. First reading of ordinance number 2020-10.
Oh, gosh. Mayor, Robert wanted to speak to that item.
Robert wanted to speak to my wife.
That is so my bad.
We got his hand.
You
Got your hand, Robert.
You need a motion for us to open that back up?
We've already voted, but we certainly can hear him, and
Let's hear what he's got.
if we want a motion to reconsider after that, I'll entertain it. So you gentlemen
Yeah.
might want to hold your seats. Robert?
I'm so sorry. Robert, are you there?
I am here.
That is my
Mayor?
fault. You have your 3 minutes. Go.
Okay, Mayor, council members, generally speaking, I believe the city needs to create a balance of jobs and residencies west of I-95. By approving this ordinance, you will be eliminating workplace district jobs. The workplace district would create jobs for people who live on the west side of I-95 and who will no longer have to travel under or access I-95 to get to their places of work. The people west of I-95 would have less need to travel east of I-95 to shop. I also want to point out that the council already eliminated part of the workplace district by previously voting to increase the apartment units at the Springs across from the pavilion. Independent living units are akin to apartment units. They are not job creators. So I ask you to vote against this proposal. There are other spaces where this developer could put this project within the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. I would entertain a motion to reconsider if anybody so wants to.
No need.
I have no motion to reconsider. The public hearing portion of the meeting really is now closed. Thank you. Bringing us to regular agenda, first a reading of ordinance number 2020-10, the Causeway Parking. Ordinance number 2020-10 is an ordinance of the City of Port Orange, Volusia County, Florida, amending Chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinance to establish a new Section 70-51 related to the parking regulations. Enforcement and increased fine for parking at the Causeway Park, providing for repeal of conflicting ordinances, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Move to approve ordinance number 2020-10.
Second.
We have a motion, proper second. The item's open on the floor. Jake, who's presenting on this one?
Mayor, I'll be presenting this. So this is the, sorry, too loud.
You're louder than me. That ain't good.
That's not good, is it? So this is the Causeway discussion we had a couple weeks ago. Susan has already started the signage down there to include more spots, decrease some no parking areas. We've already started to divert the trailers to Halifax Drive on the weekends and not Sunday, but Saturday and the weekend prior. There were a lot of trailers. I went down there. I think Councilman Stiltner sent me a video of his drive down there on a Saturday, so the trailers are starting to go down there. We're still getting parking violations, but less so. And we would like to proceed with the ordinance to have increased fines to decrease the amount of violations down there. We are also still working on possibly instituting a ride or ride share type thing from Halifax back to the ramps. But as I told you, we would work on increasing the parking, getting people to park out on Halifax before June 15th, and then we will work on the second part of that after June 15th. So that's where we are. The amount was from $30 to $100 based on Councilmember Ford's recommendation, and the ordinance reads same right now.
Jake, I have a question. When you said
Ma'am.
trailers are now parking there, by there you mean down Halifax?
They are parking in approved parking spots, new parking spots, and overflow. We are telling them and sending them to Halifax North, which is where they're starting to line up.
Okay,
Yes,
I didn't
ma'am.
know what they are.
Yes, ma'am. I apologize.
Thank you.
Other questions? Jake, I have one in regards to making sure that the timing of this coincides with the improvements we're talking about doing down there with additional spaces. How do we time this ordinance so it kicks in about the same time we improve the availability?
If I recall,
We were going to do it the day after the next council meeting, second reading.
right, second reading. So the next one's on the 16th, and we will have everything in place by the 15th and be ready to go.
Very good. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Just a just a comment that I got from a citizen who uses this area is that, and this person actually happens to be a law enforcement officer with another agency. The idea was well received. The concern was that for the most part, law enforcement typically they struggle to issue citations of this kind of weight for non-serious infractions, and so the concern was there that we may see less enforcement because of the weight of a $100 fine, because it's a feel bad thing, you know, and so just something to keep in mind.
There probably does need to be an education portion before we kick in with a higher fine.
And I know, you know, in giving that some consideration after he mentioned that, I know that back in my time in that realm, that sometimes you look at something and you look at a fence and you're like, you know, if you're 20 mile an hour over the speed limit, I don't probably get that ticket all day long because of the safety aspect and the danger and all that stuff. And then sometimes you'll come across these, you know, violations that are a violation of a law, but you still have your discretion. And a lot of times that, you know, I'd leave a warning or something like that as opposed to writing a citation, just because the fine amount would be. I know we ran into that once before, you know, early in the whole seatbelt movement thing. The seatbelt fines were so expensive, we couldn't get officers to write them. They wouldn't write them.
Right.
And same thing with speeding. You know, back in the early '90s, we had this equation where it was $4.25 for every mile an hour over, plus a flat fee, plus another fee, and and cops weren't writing tickets. They wouldn't enforce speeding with fines because that was such a stout fine. So just it was something brought up. Thought I would share. Just keep in your minds.
With that in mind, are we going to post on signage with the as people pull in?
Yeah, so Susan sent me a note after I spoke. So we're gonna put signs out about the new fine from mid-June to July 1st and start violations on July 1st. So there'll be signs that say $100 violation for parking, illegal parking. It'll be pretty clear.
Just a quick comment before the vote. I'll just say going in, I'm not supportive of the fee increase at this time. I think we're making the appropriate adjustments to make things better down there. I think it'd be okay to wait and see how that goes up before we do that. And when the additional parking is in, if it were to continue, then I would reconsider. But at this time, I don't support the increase.
Will anyone here and present care to speak to the item?
Oh, Don,
No? Okay.
Mayor.
No, it comes back to us.
Yeah,
now.
I understand.
You're first.
I would like to speak in favor of the motion. Councilman Stiltner, when he brought this up, talked about citizens and the situation that was there, and people weren't paying attention, and the current level of the fine wasn't sufficient. And I understand that police may be reluctant to enforce it because of the weight. That's certainly a judgment I trust them to make, but my comment is you can't have it both ways. You can't decide that there's a problem and do nothing, and then we take action, you go, well, okay, I don't like that, so I'm not doing it. You're either going to try and solve the problem, which is what we thought an increase in fine would do, plus providing extra parking areas, or we just throw up our hands and realize we've created this attractive nuisance that is never going to resolve itself. And I don't think that's the answer for city government. The other thing I would remind those who are charged with enforcing the law, if you can spend $400 to $700 on gas for the day taking your boat out, a hefty ticket may bring some sanity to where you can park so that everybody can enjoy that area. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not doing this to recoup money. We're trying to make it so everybody can enjoy that area and park in a fashion that allows the greatest enjoyment and traffic control and safety for everybody down there. So I am in favor of the ordinance as presented.
Other final comments? There being none, call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
No.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes. 4-1. Approval of Fifth Amendment to lease agreement with Art House Foundation. The recommended motion is to move to approve the Fifth Amendment lease agreement with Art House Foundation, a nonprofit corporation in the city of Port Orange, to amend and extend the lease for an additional 3-year term to forego the monthly rental payments in exchange for in-kind contribution by Art House, to adjust the termination clause in case Art House moves to a different city facility, and to authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute all required documents for lease agreement on behalf of the city. May I have such a motion?
Motion to approve said lease.
Go ahead.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. Items open on the floor for discussion. And of course, this would have really felt good after hearing from Cam tonight. Unfortunately, we weren't able to. Comments or questions about the item on the floor? Anyone here from the public care to speak to the item? There being none, final comments or questions, council? Call the roll.
Councilmember Ford.
Yes.
Councilmember Tremont.
Yes.
Councilmember Stiltner.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bastian.
Yes.
Mayor Burnett.
Yes, 5-0. Mr. City Attorney.
Just a couple updates tonight. One is the panhandling ordinance. I've began discussions with Mr. Khan. We're working on an engagement letter, and we'll be looking to do some one-on-one meetings at some point to have that initial discussion, and then also obviously come back to council and have some direction on various options that will be presented at that time. The other issue is a code enforcement one that I spoke to you last time about, Gibson Way. Since we had that meeting, we had a special magistrate meeting at which the owner was found in violation of multiple code provisions. Given opportunity to correct those, did work towards that, didn't get it done in time. So for those reasons, we'll be moving forward with injunctive relief.
And this is the Gibson Way property that is
Correct.
yeah.
So just want to give you that update. That's probably going to be filed as soon as tomorrow. So
Go get 'em.
And then lastly, I sent you an email. June is the evaluation month for city attorney. So
You just started.
I know, just started 6 months in. So I gave you a couple forms you could take a look at. I was going to see if we could get some sort of consensus on maybe which form was the one you maybe like, so I get a one consistent form. I guess it doesn't have to be.
No.
Okay.
No.
Could be all the forms.
I don't even know we have consensus we want to keep you yet. You're worried about the form?
I'm good with that.
All right.
So basically, at the next meeting, put it on there, but I'll have an opportunity to meet with each of you before then, and we can chat.
I don't think I've ever filled out any of those forms.
No.
I've chosen
You
one
freelance it too. That's good.
that I like, and it might not be one that somebody else does.
Okay.
You have 5 bosses, and we may evaluate you in 5 different ways.
Fair enough. Just want to give you some options. So sounds good. I'll take that.
Has Jake warned you how that goes?
No, yeah, no idea.
Matt, if I just want to reiterate and stress, as you're meeting with Mr. Khan, and I look forward to meeting as well, and I'm looking for multiple options, not just the one he specialized in before. I'd like to see a number of routes we can go.
Got it. Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments for the attorney?
No, sir.
No, I was asking them, not you.
Oh.
See, that's ding number 1 on your review, man. City manager.
I too will be evaluated in June. I'm going to launch my hard copy of what we do with the rest of the staff, the GROW report, they're called. I'll be giving you a PDF version of that with my comments in the section where the comments are. Take it or leave it. Mainly that's to A, evaluate me, and B, show you what the rest of the staff is going through now as far as goods, bads, and others, and moving forward. So that, and I had a great meeting with Amanda Lasecki, our OPM manager, Other People's Money Grants manager, and every day we have more COVID money that gets sent to us with, you've got 2 weeks to tell us how you're going to spend this. A lot of the money is not required for match. The latest one is the CSEF for law enforcement from the DOJ, $172,000. As it stands right now, grant money needs to be approved by you prior to prior to saying yes. You have to, this one has no grant, it's got no strings other than all the strings of how to use it. So I will be bringing that to you under city manager comments because that agenda's already left, but I'll be bringing that to you for a vote under city manager comments next week, so, or 2 weeks from now, so we can get it in before the August 1st or July 1st deadline. We're not quite sure what we're gonna use it yet for, but I would like your approval to accept the grant, and I will come up with, I'm not gonna come up, I don't think we're gonna come up with $172,000 worth of police department COVID. I know what you're thinking. I'll see if I can. I'll see if I can get it through DOJ. But we'll see what we can do. But the stuff keeps on happening. The SAFER grant last week, the CSIF this week. It'll be something else next week. And she did mention to me, and we haven't figured out a way to spin it yet. But the COVID CV money was phase one, and we got $225,000 of that. So there might be a phase two. So we're looking at utility reimbursement, including electricity. So those are things that all kind of came to light late last week. So if we use it for utility, interestingly enough, and we're getting, it doesn't sound right, but we pay the utility direct. So our COVID CV funds would go right to FP&L to pay an electricity bill. They go right to the utility fund to pay for a water or sewer or solid waste fund. In order to do that, I need an administrator. Some cities have CDBG administrators. We never have. Amanda can't do it alone. So we'll probably hire a CDBG administrator out of the CDBG funds to administer that entire thing for the length of it.
Service.
So yeah, so it would be contract services this year, and then our CAPER, which is our CDBG plan, is due next year. So we have CDBG funds to pay for this, but we might pay for an administrator for a year and a half, maybe two, to carry us through the COVID money and the CDBG CAPER money to get the new CAPER. We're looking into that. Too early for me to give you the details, but I wanted you to know that that's going to be a big lift under city manager comments on June 16th.
Council, I just want to add to Jake's comments. As you know, I've been leading a mayor's call with the Volusia League of Cities every week in relation to COVID-19. The greater concern in all our cities has not just been has been more than just the cost of COVID-19 to all of us. The bigger concern is that the lack of revenue we normally get to do the things we normally do to serve our citizens. So we have pushed upwards through the Florida League of Cities and the National League of Cities and our lobbying efforts. So if it comes up and you talk to representatives at the state level and the national level, if you see things like that come into your email box from the Florida League, when they're talking about second stimulus for cities, that's what that's about, so that we know that 2/3 of our revenue comes from different funding sources other than our property taxes, and all we want to be able to do is keep the lights on at times, so that when you see those things come through the leagues, those are some of the things that we're talking about locally with the other mayors and the like. And if you have an opportunity to add your voice to it, we appreciate it.
That's all I have, Mayor.
No, it's not.
It isn't? What else? Oh, yeah, thank you. I forgot. A couple months ago, I brought it to your attention, as I do every year with this particular contract, that I was going to sign the Pittman contract. And there was a discussion as to whether the lobbyist contract should be included under professional services that the city manager is allowed to sign. I know the importance of that contract. I know the importance of the lobbyists to the elected officials. I've never signed it without this conversation for the exact reason that it was brought up a couple weeks ago. So, Matt and I talked a little bit, and the question stands today, and I'd like some guidance on is not necessarily the Pittman contract. I kind of got consensus that I'm signing it this year, but the question remains: do you want the lobbyist contract pulled out of my ability to sign and put for an annual vote, or do you want me now? It's me. And as long as it's me, I will continue to do so. Bring it up to your attention before I sign it, for you to say, hey, maybe this year's a good year to make a change. Over to you. But I don't want that to linger out there every year and go, hey, last year. So I want some resolution on whether you want lobbyists pulled and held for elected official decision every year, or notification prior to me signing.
Thoughts?
I'm okay, Jake. I mean, we can put that back into council lap. I'm fine with that.
It doesn't matter to me.
I'm good with status
It's
quo.
the same, with the relationships we
The
have
result's
now,
gonna be the same.
the same result. So,
Yeah, I'm good with
but
status
if
quo.
you guys aren't here or I'm not here, then it would be possibly different.
Me personally, I'm good with the situation we have with our current contract and the provider for it.
Right.
But I do think it's important that in one way, shape, or form, that whoever's on this council has a conversation with whoever the city manager is.
So I can guarantee you that. Do you want the informal process we have, or do you want it formal with a vote?
Well, you're doing it now.
I got one that doesn't care.
I'm frankly indifferent. I understand. Well, seriously, it's not something I would have brought up because I get the merits of both. I think it's important that we have public discussions.
Right.
For sure. But if council wants to change it, I'd be fine to change it. If we don't, I'm fine the way it is.
I favor a formal process because everything's good until it's not.
Right.
And I think particularly in this instance, because the lobbyist represents us, that is something that we should look at with due deliberation. Here's the thing I would say, Pittman is at an annual renewal. I don't have a problem with doing a multi-year, because that, I mean, certainly when somebody's new, you want to find out if they can produce. But so you might want to build a model that if you ever decide to change, they get a 1 year only, and then after that, you would look at a 2 or a 3 year. Because I do think there is some value to having consistency if you think somebody's doing a good job for you.
Right.
But I also think, and I have regard for Pittman,
Sure.
so I'm not suggesting anything else. I think at some point it's healthy for there to be an RFP and for you to see what's out there. And because businesses can change, personnel can change, and we might not realize that, and we may, decide to make a change. But I would favor it being formal in this particular instance.
Okay.
Got it. I heard two indifferents, one definitely, couple that don't care, so we're gonna bring the ordinance with the change to put it on council. It'd take 2 minutes on a good week. It'll take an RFP occasionally, and we'll try to give you enough lead time. We'll consider a multi-year, so you don't have to think about it every year.
And I'm fine with a multi-year.
Yeah, I don't know if Pittman, I don't know if Sean is. I'll find out.
It may be better for him, it might not.
Sure.
But I can take a look at our budget. I can take a look around town, the House Street project. I see dollar signs where he's got his fingerprints on all around the city, and flood control, et cetera, and so forth. So the proof's in the pudding for me as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
City Council Committee reports, Port Orange South Daytona Chamber of Commerce. I had it up just a second ago, but I've lost it, but the Chamber is going to begin their after hours again in late June. And I believe that one's going to be down at the golf course in New Smyrna Beach. You can visit pschamber.com faster than I can type it up and get it to you and get that information out. And we heard from the Chamber earlier this evening as well. Anything else come before us this evening?
I have a police pension meeting update. I'll be brief.
Okay.
Okay, so our last meeting, we were updated on performance. So for the quarter, the plan was down 15.16% net of fees. And that is a large amount. In numbers, it lost $6.6 million and dropped to $36,848,000 and some change as of March 31st. That's the bad news. The good news is since March 31st, up until May 20th was the day last reporting, it recouped over $4 million of those $6.6 million in losses. And so the year started on 10/1/19. We started with $40,813,000 and change, and as of May 20th, we were at $40,832,000. So we actually started a little, that's huge. Now I don't have the exact numbers, but it's up about another 5% since May 20th. So that we've recouped more of the losses. We're not back, up to the 43.4 million, but it's chipping away and holding its own after a huge loss. There were a very, very large recovery.
And let's hear it for the value of exponential smoothing.
Yep.
Anything else come before us this evening? I'm just going to say one thing real quick. Everybody out there, the virus is still out there. It's still among us, even though we've had a slowing. So let's stay safe, be smart about your trips out, and be healthy, and we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Good night.